Okay. Okay, hi. Today's topic, change. And the concept of change, the concept of growing and improving and believing in yourself and seeking something better. To change, there are three main things an individual has to do. First things first is recognize the things inside of them that are prohibiting change, that are affecting their change, and how they even view change. The second thing is acknowledgement. If you don't acknowledge those things after recognizing them, you can never really do anything about them because you always pretend like they're not an issue, even though those factors and stones are there. And then the last thing that any man has to do when they're trying to change is change. It's like take action, take affirmative action over that piece of revelational information that you have received. So I'll start with the first one, recognition. Are you self-aware enough to recognize the season, the time, and frame of life you're in? Recognize what God has given you to work on, what you have to build, and what you have to change. And is it a time to plan? Is it a time to be still and recover? Is it a time to dig deep into God's presence or dig deep into yourself and discover more things about you? And the important part of that is that if you don't take that step, you can't move into the next steps, because it is a failure in not recognizing that there's an issue, right? You can't solve a problem if you don't believe there's a problem. Recognition, is an important factor in growth. There are many issues that a person faces in life, and they don't recognize that sometimes the actions and choices they take are not just the result of their reasoning, but it's a compounding thing of things and elements inside of them that have been dictating their life for God knows how long. For example, a man can be pushed to make certain decisions out of trauma, out of fear, out of anger, out of opinions and thoughts that he doesn't even recognize or is aware enough to see that are his. How intimately do you know yourself? And how intimately do you know your actions, right? A person may feel the need to constantly seek money, constantly seek improved social status. And when you ask that person why, they say, because I have to have that, society tells me to, or I have to have that because they think, if I didn't have that thing, then I'm nothing. And then you have to ask deeper than that first question and say, okay, but why is this the thing that validates you? Why do you need money to feel okay? Oh, I need money to feel okay because that will make me secure. And why does it make you secure? It'll make me secure because of this, and this. Why? Because of this and this. Actually, because it makes me feel like I have control over my life, like final result. And then that person gets a revelation that they're not looking for money to have money's sake. They're looking for money because they have a fear of lack of control. And because of that, they can now look back on previous memories and actions that they have taken that leads into that recognition, like, dude, I made these choices when I was younger because I thought at first that getting money was okay, but I was actually making this choice because I had a fear of not having control of my situation. And so I ended up taking choices that were not necessarily beneficial to me, even though I thought at the time they were, because I thought I was doing them for the right reason. And so many lives have been destroyed by this kind of thing, like doing things and not realizing why you're really doing them, simply because when you ask yourself, you settle at the first surface level answer. And I always explain to people that you're a lot more complicated than that. It's like a tree. You have branches, you have the fruit on the branches, you have the branches connecting to the trunk, and the trunk connects down to the root. And you can keep removing the fruit of a problem, but unless you remove the root, unless you get to the roots, that tree is always going to produce fruit. So it's a conscious choice whether or not you allow that thing to continue have a power over your life, or you change and you become something new. And you recognize that rule has been shaping so many decisions you've had up to now. And are you going to continue letting it shape more decisions, or are you going to break free from that cycle of repetition and become something new entirely? That's how you achieve dreams. That's how you achieve vision. You have to grow and break out those cycles and become something new entirely. Acknowledgement. All right, this is the second part to inner healing, is acknowledgement. Once you become deeply aware of questions that you didn't ever ask yourself, and become more intimate with yourself, and realize that you have these deep integrated issues that you've never really addressed, and now that you know the answers to, you're like, damn, I didn't really know myself as a person, but now I'm starting to get a better understanding of what really controls me, and what really runs me, and what really speaks through me when I speak, what really leads me to do certain things when I feel like I'm compelled to do it, and so on and so forth. You have to acknowledge it, because if you just pretend like you didn't discover all this nonsense, what's gonna happen is you're delaying yourself from changing. You're forcing yourself to to associate with his nature that is not beneficial nor healthy for you. Because as I said before, human beings are one of the only creatures that can actively control their nature and shift, become something new entirely. And it's whether it's good or bad. Like, you got to think yourself as the environment, the soil, and what you plant inside of you is what's going to grow. But depending on what you nurture that seed and what you put in that environment. So if I don't remove all the toxic things that are poisoning my environment, poisoning the seed I'm trying to plant, which is me, the new version of me, the growth that I'm seeking, if I don't remove the stuff that's killing it, then I can't complain when the process of growing it is a lot longer and the fruit that I'm wishing to eat is not as big, because I didn't give it the best possible chance it could have in being the best possible version of itself. And people don't recognize that, yeah, those choices you're making is killing you, bro. You have to realize, dude, I keep looking at the cost, but I'm not looking at what I stand to lose and what I stand to gain. And that's how the wealthy think, bro. Like, you know, like people are like, oh, I don't want to do this because this is the cost. I have to give up this. I have to stop doing this. Or it's uncomfortable. And that's like the price tag. That's the price tag. That's the admission, right? Into the VIP section of life that you keep missing out on because you don't want to pay admission. But if you don't pay admission, guess what you're missing out? You should change your perspective on, okay, it's costing me this, but the admission is to, dude, a lifetime full of freedom. A version of me that is not held back by this compulsion to this addiction. It's gone. A freedom, peace in the soul, a mind, so on and so forth. Like, it's not just limited to one thing, it's everything. And it's about taking it step by step. Like I always say to people, like, you can have dreams, you can have many ideas and dreams, but you can only do one thing at a time, in a sense. A vessel, for example, will plot a destination, but it will not see the destination it's going to for 99% of its journey. It will travel those oceans, go through different storms, go through circumstances where the vessel is in danger of sinking. Its crewmen are miserable, things happen, but then they'll also go through moments where they see beautiful sunrises, beautiful open skies, smell the ocean breeze, and so on and so forth. And eventually it keeps chugging and chugging and chugging until it finally sees the port of land, until it finally sees the destination it has in mind. Now, a vessel wouldn't just stop in the middle of its cargo run, you know, because it knows that even though I can't see what's ahead of me, I know there's land there, and I'm gonna get there because I want to make profit this year, right? I want to change, I want to get income, I want to grow. So over a year, a vessel can make 100 successful journeys by going to one destination at a time. Even though for all of those journeys, for 99% of it will not see the end goal, but they know it's there. It's there for you as well. And we're much like that. You cannot go to multiple places at once. But if you plan your steps and say, okay, I have a vision in mind, I have this future version me I want to become. I don't know where to start though. But if you start chasing that destination, the first destination, eventually it will lead you to a port of calling where saying, okay, well here, you finally grown enough to this point, now I can tell you a bit more details. You need to let go of this, and that will be your first destination port. And if you can't let go of it and reach that first destination port, best believe you're not making the second trip or the third trip or the fourth trip. And that your race that you're running, because people get confused and feel like, oh, I'm running, I have to catch up with this other person. That person has done this and this now, so my life is not as good because I haven't done those things. And it's like, dude, you're running your own race, you're running your own course, and it's your own life, and everyone's race is different, and that the speed and pace of your race is gonna be determined by your attitude and your willingness to sacrifice and change. When I started my journey, I was willing to give everything. Like, dude, as soon as it was a problem, I'm changing. As soon as it's like, dude, I can't do this thing anymore, I let it go. Like, I sacrificed everything. And it was hard, don't get me wrong, it is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's the best thing you ever do. Like, I've had the hardest year of my life, I've had the greatest year of my life at the same time. I recognized the problems, I recognized what was right, what was wrong, I recognized what needed to change, and I acknowledged it, and in that acknowledgement, I become this person. Okay, so final step is change. Leads me to change. Final step is change. You will not get to A to B to C to Z unless you put on your walking shoes and start moving. And you have to stop being all talk with yourself. Like, you need to really discipline yourself and say, you know what, my word is my law now. And if I don't follow what I'm gonna do, then that means I'm a liar and I can't even trust myself. And it's crazy to realize that. To be like, the only person I have in my life is me, and I can't even trust me. So what do I do? And in that circumstance, you gotta ask God to help you, to deliver you from those things that are breaking you, holding you back from being more than you can imagine. But you also have to, back to recognize, is you got to recognize the value. I said before, there's a cost and a gain, and you have to also recognize the gain to paying the cost. And the gain is when you close your eyes and you think about this perfect version of yourself and you see how that man thinks, and as you start growing along the line, you start going down the vision, you start becoming more and more like this person, and then you start seeing life differently, you start becoming more aware of yourself, intimate with yourself, and then you start recognizing your need for God, and then you find God, and then you're at this point now where there's times where it's still hard, and you may be at any point along in this journey, because God will help you when no one else can. You have to recognize that you're not enough to do it on your own. I've tried and failed so many times at doing it on my own, and the only reason I'm here now is by the goodness of God, right? Does not mean I had not to work. Like, I had to work. I had to go through the storm. I'm saying that God gave me the strength to go through the storm, and that God ultimately was worth more than the sufferings, the cycles I was going through, because I kept eating the same fruit, of rotten fruit, of those things and what they brought. Like, you know, you reap what you sow. Those things, what I was sowing, what I was reaping back, I could tell, like, dude, I don't want this for my life. I can see the long-term destruction. I know there's more to life than this. I know I can be better. You know, brutal honesty and integrity is what's gonna lead you forward every time. Recognize your ego and get out of the way, because your ego is what's holding you back. Your ego is making you settle, for less when you could be so much more, my brothers and sisters. So much more. So change starts by action, and action starts by taking an idea and then moving with it. So I always tell people, you're living your dream. When you focus on that dream, as soon as you start walking to it, you already started your process. You already started living your dream. Because people don't realize that the dream starts at the bottom and not the top. Like, you know, it's not all Hollywood glamour and money and success all at the top. No, it's like you start here. You start here where you're at. But if you take positive steps every day to go forward, one step at a time, I'm telling you, you'll reach your destination.